So, I thought I'd do another air gun video today. This is my QB78, which I've had for a couple of years. It's a CO2 rifle, and this is my favorite CO2 gun, at least that I own. It's basically a Chinese-made copy of an old Crossman gun called the Crossman 160. And for the price, it's actually a really nice rifle, and you can still get these, unlike my 392 from the other video. You can still pick these up on Amazon for like 120 bucks, which is still pretty good for what you get. I actually paid an even 100 for this one a couple of years ago, but even 120 is definitely a reasonable price. It's pretty much a steel and wood rifle. Actually pretty decent bluing on it. The barrel, the tube, the receiver here and everything's all solid steel. Nice hardwood stock. It's actually it's a great finish on the stock. I mean, it's just a piece of beech, but other than that, even if it was a piece of walnut or something on an expensive gun, the finish really couldn't get much nicer, really. And actually, I think the only plastic part on the whole gun is this little barrel band up here. And you can actually get an aftermarket metal one to put on there if it really bothers you, but in my opinion, it's not really worth the cost and the bother. But really nice, fun little gun. And take a couple of shots here, see if I can hit anything with it. Get some little spinners over there. Uses 2 CO2 cartridges at a time. Go in the end there. And interesting thing about this gun, as opposed to the newer Crossman ones like the 2240, is that on the 2240 your CO2 cartridge goes in and actually seals against the valve, and the gas goes right from the cartridge into the valve. Whereas on this one, you have the 2 cartridges and they go in back to back, and there's a thing that pierces it from this end, and then there's another piercing pin in the cap, and the gas comes out and actually pressurizes the tube. So that's kind of different. And I really like the feel and sound of the action on this thing. It's really one of the things I like about it. It's really solid and robust feeling. The way it moves, the way it locks up when you close it. It kind of feels like a firearm, really. It's actually it's a cock-on closing design, which is interesting. So when you pull it back, there's no spring tension, and really like that sound. And you load it up, and then when you close it, which is not too difficult, that cocks the hammer in there. And the way it locks up, it doesn't have like locking lugs like a Mauser or something, but it has a nice solid, little thing there where it comes down and the bolt handle locks up against this thing there in the receiver. Pretty much like a 22 rimfire, really. Which, this thing is really, in a lot of ways, it's built nicer than most of the cheap 22 powder burners out there. And it's a lot of fun to shoot. You get a lot of shots out of those 2 CO2 cartridges. pretty much as many as I want to shoot, really. I mean, by the time it gets down to the end, I've pretty much had enough. Not real powerful. It shoots maybe 500 feet per second in 22 caliber, which this is. You can get them in 177 also. And I mean, you could shoot rats or something with it, you know, squirrels or rabbits or something at fairly close range, as long as you place your shots carefully. But basically, it's a plinker, or I think, you know, in a lot of ways, what it is kind of an entry-level target rifle. They are accurate. I mean, I'm just a plinker personally. I just like shooting at cans and stuff, and I prefer iron sights over scopes. But you know, guys that shoot off a rest with a scope get pretty excellent accuracy out of these. And you can do a lot of tinkering with them for efficiency or power. You know, a lot of different tuning stuff you can do with them. Get different tuning kits and stuff like that, replace the seals and get things going a little more efficiently. But I've never done any of that to this one. It pretty much does everything I want it to do as is, you know. I'm not really worried about getting a lot of power out of it, and efficiency wise, you know, it would be nice to get it a little more efficiently, but for the effort that goes into that, you know, I already get plenty of shots out of it, so, you know, I don't really worry about it. In some ways it would almost make more sense to get the 177 caliber one, since it is just a plinker. You know, you could get a little higher velocity and flatter trajectory and more shots out of a 177. But in 22, you know, it's pretty good. And I don't know if I mentioned, but the sight on there is a Williams peep sight that I put on. The original rear sight's just, you know, a typical little notch sight on there. I took off and I put the screws back in the holes just to keep the holes filled in. But with this one, like I was mentioning with the 392, which also has a Williams sight on it in the last video, I took that aperture out of there, so it's a bigger hole, and I like that a lot better. I just seem to pick up targets easier in all lighting conditions. You know, my issue with the aperture in there, when I have a lot of sun coming from behind me, there's so much light shining on the sight that I can't really see through the sight when the sun's coming down just right. But with this one, I've got the sun kind of behind me now, and it's fine. And you know, theoretically the smaller aperture is more accurate, but for just plinking at stuff, I don't really notice a difference. The only thing I don't really like about this gun is the safety. It's just not that good. You can see it's right down near there. In order to turn it on and off, you basically have to have your fingers pushing and sliding around right by the trigger, and it's real easy to slide off into the trigger, which has a hair trigger pull. Did I already load this thing? I'm not sure. Nope, I guess I didn't. And it is a hair trigger because it's adjustable. You have to take it out of the stock to adjust it, but it's adjustable for pull weight and over travel and all kinds of things. So I have it so it's pretty light. You know, I don't have the scale to measure it, but it's a hair trigger with very little take up and very little over travel. So it's nice and crisp, just the way I like it. But that's the QB78, and if you're in the market for a CO2 rifle, I would highly recommend it. And we'll finish off on one more shot here. Oh, that was a miss. Can't end on a miss. Oh, another one. I was hitting these spinners every time before I turned the camera on, of course. Now they're kind of kicking my ass. Okay, maybe we'll try for a different target here. Alright, there's a hit. Thanks for watching.